What are the 10 best deck building games of all time? Well, stick around because I'm about to mention my personal favorite games. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name's Clayton and today we are talking about deck building games, not dice building, not bag building, but deck building games. Now before we get started, I just want to mention a few honorable mentions about games that I heard are really great, but I have not had a chance to play, such as Endless Winter that came out last year. I haven't had a chance to play that, but I've heard really good things. Core Worlds as well. I've heard great things about that one, and Trains. And as always, this is my list. It may not be the best list, but let me know what your guys' top 10 favorite deck building games are in the comment section down below. And with that being said, let's get into number 10. Coming in at number 10, we have Dominion, the deck building game that started it all. This is a straight deck building game where you are playing cards to buy more cards. That's all you're doing, building the best deck that you possibly can with the most amount of points. Now, I think it is an unwritten rule that you can't make a top 10 list of deck building without having Dominion somewhere on this list. It is a fantastic game, and it's the type of game that I think will last the test of time. It was one of the first deck building games out there, and it's still great to play. And it's straight up deck building. You're not really doing anything else. No worker placement, no combat, really. You're just straight up playing cards, taking different actions, and hopefully you have enough victory points at the end of the game once that pile runs out to win. There's tons of different expansions for this one as well to change up the gameplay if it gets too boring, to add more cards, add different combos. What is it? Sorry to bug you, but we actually have a sponsor we need to talk about. We have a sponsor? It's actually Into the AM, and they make these amazing graphic t-shirts that feel really comfortable. What kind of shirts do they have? Well, they actually have one that's called the Fractured King, which is this really cool looking lion one. They also have a squid one that's wrapping its tentacles around a barrel. Looks really awesome. Well, that's really cool. What about hoodies? Do they have any hoodies? Yes, they got hoodies too. Wow, that's really nice. It's really soft. I like the fit. What if I only wanted a plain black t-shirt? Yep, they have those too. That's really nice. I like the fit. I like the feel. Really great t-shirts. Thank you, Into the AM, for sponsoring this video. If you guys want to grab some cool graphic t-shirts, make sure to check out Into the AM. I'll have a discount code for you guys to use in the description box down below so you guys can save a little bit of money. They really have some awesome t-shirts on their website. Highly recommend to go check them out. It really does feel great. And again, thank you Into the AM for sponsoring this video. Now let's get back to talking about some board games. ThunderStone Quest. If I had to describe this game in one sentence, it would be quest, more quests, and fighting monsters. Now, if you're a fan of the ThunderStone series, this is another version that I think is fantastic to pick up as well. It just so happens to be another great deck building game. ThunderStone Quest is a deck building game where you're gonna be going on different quests to travel into the dungeon, to fight different monsters. You're gonna go into town to get better cards, such as weapons, different skills, gain different abilities. You can use resources like lanterns to travel further into the dungeon, defeat even stronger monsters, and ultimately face off against the boss, and then the game ends. If you're looking for a combat heavy deck building game that's a lot of fun, this is what I can recommend. But if generic fantasy is not your thing, maybe a little bit of superheroes are, so check out this next one. DC the Deck Building Game, a game where you and other fellow players are going to be playing as DC heroes to defeat villains. Each hero has their own unique ability, and you can use different weapons, punches, and kicks to fight the different villain cards. There's tons of different expansions that you can get with this one as well, each one bringing a different unique element to it to change up the gameplay. And I'm not here to tell you which one's better, Marvel or DC, but if you're looking for a fast, simple, easy deck building game that has a fast setup time, easy to teach, then DC deck building game is where it's at. I think both Marvel and DC are very different and both are great in their own unique way. But with that being said, let's move on to the next game. The Hunger. This is a push your luck deck building game where the players are racing to get to an ancient rose, collecting and eating humans along the way to gain victory points. However, the balance fact in this game is humans slow you down because they do not produce you any speed. Speed is needed to move and to buy cards in this game. And there's only 15 turns in the whole game because the sun comes up and the vampires all die if they're not back to the safety of the castle, and you want to make sure you get to that rose right away because that's going to grant you a lot of points. But if you eat too many humans along the way, that's going to really slow you down trying to get back to that castle. So this one really feels like Clank in the sense that you are really racing against time to get back to the safety of your castle so you can hopefully win the game if you have enough points. So if you're looking for another push your luck style of game and you don't feel like playing Clank, this is one that I can highly recommend. Lost Ruins of Arnak, a 5-round deck building game with tons of different ways to gain points. This one mixes worker placement along with deck building. You are collecting different idols, facing off against different guardians to gain resources, and increasing your journal. There is so much going on in this game, and there's tons of different ways to gain points. Now, if you're looking for a game where it requires a lot more strategy and thinking ahead and planning, then this is definitely a one I can recommend. Now, I haven't played this game with the newest expansion yet, but I've heard good things, and it does make this game even more enjoyable to play. So I'm sure once I do, this game would definitely be further up on this list. But for now, that is Lost Ruins of Arnak, sitting at number 6. Coming in at number 5, we have Marvel Legendary. Now, Upper Deck has tons of legendary deck building games. They have Alien, I think they have Buffy the Vampire Slayer, tons of IPs. Just choose whatever one you want. They do play differently, but my personal preference is Marvel Legendary because this is seriously the Marvel Universe inside a box. There's also tons of expansions for them. I actually have quite a few. This is not even including all the small box games, but we have Civil War, Secret Wars Volume 1 and 2. Pretty much in this game, what you're going to be doing is working together to defeat a certain mastermind. Each player will choose a hero, and you are working with shield agents to purchase those heroes to add to your deck, each one of them having different abilities. And once the mastermind is defeated, technically everybody wins, but you can play with a mode that whoever has the most victory points is technically the ultimate winner. There's also tons of different game modes you can play. You can actually have a player that can play as the mastermind versus everybody else. They do have a solo mode, I believe, as well, but I haven't tried that one out yet. Tons of cards, tons of expansions. There's just so much replayability when it comes to this game. It's insane. My main takeaway with this game, if you do have a lot of expansions, then this is going to have a longer setup time just to sort through all your cards. But it is a lot of fun. Every time I play this, I have a blast. I can say it's not for everybody, but for me, I really enjoy it. And that's why it's sitting at number 5. Marvel Legendary. Check it out. Now, these last 4 games I think are fantastic deck builders, and you can't go wrong with any of these. Coming in at number 4, I have Moonrakers by IV Studios. A brutal negotiation and betrayal deck building game that is definitely something unique in terms of competitive. You will need to work with other players in order to complete certain missions and move up on the victory point track. Now, when it comes to missions in this game, you can't complete it by yourself. Well, mainly not all the time you can complete it by yourself. The more cards you can get in the game, the more chances and likelihood you can complete a mission. But early on, some of those missions are pretty hard, and you're gonna need other players to play cards in order to complete the mission. And there's different rewards on the card that you can gain, victory points, money. So you can split that however you want with whoever helps you complete that mission. And it really brings this negotiation factor in. How many points should you get? How much money do you get? And when somebody's literally 1 point away, the game gets intense because no one's going to want to help that person win. And it just really leads into some intense gameplay. And there's also some new expansions coming out for this game to even enhance that feeling even further. I can't wait to try them out when they do come to retail. I decided to pass on the Kickstarter, but Moonrakers, definitely a great deck building game. Aeon End, the best cooperative deck building game in my opinion. You and the other players are trying to protect the town from being destroyed from a giant monster. Now, Aeon End is one of my favorite cooperative games of all time. It takes everyone working together to defeat the giant monster. It has a ton of health. And what makes it really fun is because you're coming out with these different combos to play in order. So when it comes to discarding these cards, you put them back in a certain order and you don't shuffle it when you go to draw a new hand of cards. You just simply flip over your discard pile and there you go. And yeah, so that is Aeon's End. If you haven't tried it out, there's also a legacy version that I hear everyone really loves. So if you're more into that style where you can permanently change the game as you play through it, there's that as well. At number 2, it has to be Dune Imperium. I'm not too sure why it took me so long to play this game, but my god, this game is intense. This one also mixes worker placement and deck building, but there's also a lot more combat in this version. And with combat comes some really great player interaction. This is a medium weight style of game. You are fighting over different resources, trying to gain the rewards of the round in order to win. You must really choose carefully when it comes to your worker placement spots and what ability you want to use on your cards. These decisions will have a huge impact on whether you win the game or not. And that's what makes this game so intense, because you can't do everything at once. Well, you could choose correctly, but you don't know what everyone else is going to do on their turn. So you really want to get to that spot if you really need that resources, such as water or spice. Everything is kind of scarce. And with all that being said, every character that you play in this game has their very own unique ability and difficulty to play. So if you're a master at this game, then you can choose a harder character to play. And if you're a newbie, there's those easier characters that will help you out a lot. Even if you're not a huge Dune fan, the gameplay is solid, the mechanics are great. Highly recommend this one, and that is why it's sitting at number 2. Now, if you've been following this channel for a while, you probably already know what number 1 is, but whether it is in space or in the catacombs, Clank is my favorite deck building game of all time. What makes Clank so unique is the fact that you have to play all your cards in your hand, and certain cards will make noise as you travel through the dungeon. You're gonna be pulling out cubes from a bag, and if your color cube gets pulled, you take damage. If you can make it to an artifact and get out, you have a high chance of winning, but the further that you go, the higher the points you can earn. And there's things like backpacks, which will allow you to carry another artifact, keys that help you take shortcuts to get out of the dungeon faster, and there's tons of different cards, all of them having their own silly humor to it. I just simply love the push your luck mechanic in this game. The further you go into the dungeon, the better the rewards are, but if somebody decides to get out quick, then you have a high chance of getting killed by the dragon and not getting any points at all. I love our versions of Clank, whether that be in space, the Legacy, or even now Catacombs. Again, this one's a little bit harder to play, I must admit. I don't know if I enjoy this one as much as the regular Clank. But either way, Clank, a deck building game, is, I think, one of the best deck building games of all time. And that is why this one is sitting at number 1. If you guys want to check out more of my top 10 list games, I have a playlist right here for you guys to check out. Until the next video, I'll catch you guys later. Take care. Bye.